Hi everyone, I'm Adam Rogers. I am with Metra Home Theater Group with our tech support team. Today we're going to be showing you how to set up an IP camera with a laptop. So follow along with us as we go through this. This is part 3 of a 3-part series on how to get the IP camera set up and kind of give you an overview on IP networks and how to get them set up as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive right in. So when we set up one of the Spyclops cameras on a laptop, I find that it's much quicker and much easier to do this rather than going through the NVR, which you saw in the last video. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple tools that we're going to want to make sure that we have when we're setting up the cameras as we jump into it. So if you follow along, we'll go over to the computer. So from here, guys, we're going to go online and we're going to go to metrahometheater.com. Very simply, we're going to go to our resource page and to our downloads. Now on here, you're going to see a bunch of different devices and whatnot for different downloads of manuals and everything else. What we're going to do is we're going to go over here to S for Spyclops. And this first IP camera, we're going to go here and we're going to download the IP search tool. Now I've already downloaded it and I've installed it, so I'm going to jump past this and we're going to go ahead and open it up and take a look at it. So we have our search tool here. What we have, of course, up here, we've got our Spyclops on it, export, refresh, and then different searching types as well, whether it be an IPC, ONVIF, or other. We're going to keep it on all because we're going to look for everything. We're going to hit our refresh button, and what we're going to find here is a bunch of different cameras that are set up here. Now, you'll notice here that the third camera that's listed is an IP camera. Now, we're not going to mess with that today. That's going to be the subject of another video later on, and we'll talk more about that at that time. In the meantime, we're going to look more closely at the cameras that we have going on here. So I've got 4 other cameras set up here, and what we can do very simply is we can very easily change an IP address of a camera from this search tool. But the nice thing about this search tool is we can actually jump in and change all of the IP addresses of the cameras. Now, if you remember from the last video, you had to go through each individual camera and changing the IP address directly. Well, with this search tool, it makes it so much easier to just select which cameras you want to control and change the IP address of. You tell it what the starting IP address is for all of the cameras, and then you click change, and it does it all at once for you. And we'll get more into detail about that here next. So before we jump into that, I want to look at the IP scan tool, the advanced IP scanner. Now, in a normal setup, when you're on a network, you want to make sure that you have those cameras that when you set it, that it's outside of a DHCP pool, as well as it's going to be in an area where it's not going to be stepped on or step on anything else. So in our network here, I know that the DHCP pool is 192.168.135.100 through 200. So I know I don't want to have it inside there. Now, this is a network, this is for our research and development, so I know this network very well. I know that we don't want to be in that area because we're going to wind up stepping on something else, but I also know that we use the other areas as well. So you'll see in here, I have other devices that are outside of the DHCP range that we use for testing. So what I'm going to do here, you'll notice that we have the 192.168.135.80. Now, this address here is actually from the cameras that we're going to be changing today. This was already changed from that before. So this is an old scan of something else. So you'll notice here that those are not active currently, but we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to put our cameras in that location. So we're going to look at that here next. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our network map worksheet. So what the map worksheet does is it helps us to make sure that we have different devices set up in a way and be able to keep track of them. Now, what we have here for our network is we have an IP suffix of 192.168.135. We'll keep track of that. The project here, we're going to call this our research and development project. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to keep scrolling until we find our surveillance. Now you'll notice here that we've already kind of pre-filled in the information, the DVR and NVR. Now with our system, you don't have to have the DVR and NVR set to a .80 network position. We just like to do that because it's a good practice and make sure that all the surveillance is in one chunk of IP addresses. That way it's all kept together in one area and you'll know what you're looking for when you're moving forward from project to project. Kind of making it standard for every project makes it easy to know, well, every NVR is always going to be on an 80 or something similar. So from there, we've got .80 as our DVR and NVR. Then our first camera is .81. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our search tool, and I'm going to select the cameras that we want to change, like so. And you notice over here, this is the starting IP address. So I want to change this to .135.81. So the really nice thing about this is that this is where we're going to start at. Now, like the other video you saw, you could go in and change that, each camera, but you had to change them individually and you had to type it in every time. Now, unfortunately with the NVR, it doesn't accept keyboards. You have to type it in with the mouse. This is much quicker. You'll see that the amount of time that I'm talking about it is taking more time than actually doing it. So from here, we want to make sure 135.81 is our starting IP address. Make sure your subnet is correct, which is 255.255.255.0 is, a basic subnet. This is what you're going to find most times when you're out in the field, especially if it's a residential setup. If you are getting out to something different like 255.255.0.0, that's something that's completely different and could change the structure of your network greatly, but that's a much more advanced setup, which calls for a completely different video. So from here, we want to make sure our gateway is set correctly. I know that mine is .135. The DNS. Now, I like to change the DNS. I go to 8.8.8.8. The Google's DNS, and it's a great DNS to use for situations. We find that if you are running into certain problems, changing the DNS a lot of times can fix that problem, especially if you're talking about cloud service and cloud connection. It's a good thing to go ahead and change that. So from here, we want to make sure the HTTP port is set correctly. With our cameras, it's 80, and the RTSP port is 554. Again, with our Spyclops cameras, 554 is the correct port for RTSP. From here, we want to go down to the username and password. Now, the factory username is admin, and the factory password is admin, all lowercase. So we're going to type that in like so, and we're going to click on Batch Modify. So it'll say that it's modifying. Please wait. Now, what you'll see here is that a lot of times it'll say modify success on all of them. Now, some of these will say receive timeout. That's not the end of the world. What it really means is that it's just timed out from communicating back from the camera. What we found is that in most cases, it will work just fine. So we're going to click OK. And we're going to give it about a minute or so while it goes through and changes the IP addressing of the cameras. All right, so I've hit refresh, and now we have 192.168.135.81, 82, 83, and 84. I've only had to put in the .81 as the starting IP address, and the program automatically changed the IP address of the other cameras. So it makes life really simple when you're changing the IP addresses. In this situation, I'm only doing 4 cameras. However, you may have a system that's 8 or 16 cameras or more, and from there, you want to using this tool makes life really easy to change all of those cameras all at once. So from here, now that we've changed the IP address of the cameras, next step is to go ahead and move over to the NVR and get them attached to the NVR from here.
Now right click on the screen and go to Video Manage. And once inside Video Manage, we want to make sure we have manually set up, and for the protocol we're at default. Now click Refresh. And what's going to happen is going to find all 4 cameras that we just set up, 81, 82, 83, and 84. Once it's done searching, simply double click each one and it'll add it into the bottom. After you click each one, it's going to say IPC channel is updating, so you'll have to wait until it's finished before you click the next one. Once you have all 4 of them in the bottom, you'll make sure that the status says something like authentication failed or updating, or it'll say connect success. To fix the authentication failed, what we're going to do is go to manual edit. And you'll notice in manual edit, you'll have channel number, protocol, IP address, port, and then below that you'll have username and password. So in the password field, if there's anything else there, we're going to erase it and type in admin, ADMIN, all lowercase, then click copy to, select all, click OK, OK, and OK again. From there, we're going to watch the status refresh on all the cameras. Once all the statuses say I'll connect success, we're going to click OK at the bottom. And that'll take us back to the main screen where we can see all 4 cameras. If you have any other questions, feel free to visit us at metrahometheater.com, or you can call our tech support line at 386-255-0234. Thank you.